That American. Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Go Get It Life Gratitude Challenge, fifth annual.
You're doing really good.
Yeah, all that. And we got some great people with us. This isn't definitely not about me. Um,
So, hello, Megan here. It is the fifth annual gratitude challenge. We're doing our live hangout with the five winners this year. And our prompt this year, because we change it up every year, is best year yet. So we sent out the prompt for the challenge, and we said we want to hear how are you going to make 2019 your best year yet.
yeah,
And it doesn't have, it can be grand or it can be in little ways. And we received tons of submissions. And I think at the end of the day, when we selected the five people who would win, and it's never easy because there's always like these extra people, like, I want everyone to win. I don't ever want anyone to feel really bad about themselves because they weren't selected a winner. But I will say for our five winners this year, I could tell there was a lot of effort, a lot of thought, and it was everyone just did such a wonderful job of really thinking through what they wanted to do this year and were very strategic in planning out like different areas of their life. And there was even one, and it was just like, I just want to try not to procrastinate so much, and just like these simple little goals to make it your best year. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I think that why this was important to us and definitely important to me is I think that the way kind of the system is set up now is it's set up for us to be distracted by everything. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to stay focused. Like I think a lot of us, and especially everybody on this and anybody who's watching this, we have the good intentions. We know what we want to do. Like the plan is in our head, the plan is in place. And then there's just so many distractions now as opposed to kind of what it used to be. And I find that in my own life and a lot of things that I'm doing that it's just the setup where, you could say the phones, you could say life, you can say all of that stuff has just put us in a position where we get distracted a lot easier. So it's very hard to kind of get these goals. And I think that from what I know with myself and definitely with Mego and the people I'm closest with is like when we have a set plan, we can look at that every day and kind of move towards it and feel like we're getting closer and closer. And it's just that daily reminder. So this was definitely important. And again, I don't like using the word winners. I like using the words of just that these were really interesting. And I think that they said a lot to us of what they were doing. So, welcome everybody. And just know that I'm right here with you. Like I'm literally doing the same exact thing. So,
and the cool thing is, just to kick it off so everyone knows, because you're about to really hear each person's story. And as you hear their story, just understand that we are actually going to be posting their best year yet plans Monday on our website. So Monday morning, you can head over. I would say probably after like 9 a.m. Central Time, they'll all populate and you can get on and just read through all five of them. And there is our web address there, gogetitlife.com. You can read their story and you can also share your story. That was actually when Theo and I started this back in 2014. We really have always wanted to be this digital place to connect everyone and allow you to cathartically share your story. In fact, Terry, who was on here, was actually one of our first people who started to regularly submit his story. And recently he just had a follow-up entitled Never Give Up, where he was really sharing a bit about him, which I'm not going to give away until he starts talking. But I mean, it's on the website, but, talking about being bullied, growing up, and now what a 180. He's now an educator and just phenomenally involved in his school. So it's been a really great way for people to share their story. So if you just have a story that you want to share with us, tell us about something that you're working to overcome, something that you have overcome, or even how you're giving back in your local community and you want to shed some light on a local nonprofit that you work with, just email us info@gogetitlife.com.
yeah. And I think that just before we get into everything, I think that that's kind of, the deal here. I've always believed, and since I've been fortunate enough to kind of get into a position where I can do things like this, and this goes for me in my own work and my own life, is like, I feel that when we all kind of do things together, we move forward faster. You know what I mean? When we share our stories, when we share our experiences, it also kind of humanizes everybody in a world where like everybody's pushed to be separate now and separating everybody. I think that when we realize that we're all kind of in the same boat. And I know that seems like maybe an esoteric, magical thing that, oh God, that's so hard to get to. But I think little things like this, I think little things like sharing great stuff on social media, kind of sharing more of the positive, because the negative's all there. Like, it's there, man. We can find it at any time, in any moment. But like the positive stuff, you kind of got to go out of your way to find it. And the funny thing is that all the people, everybody on here and anybody who's listening, and anybody who's even on social media, I think that a lot of people really want to find common good. And for me, I learn from people when I hear their story. I love listening. It makes me, not just a better person, a better parent. It makes me a better actor. It makes me a better everything, because I learn about other people. And I learn how to, portray them in my job. And I learn how to write about them when I write. And I also learn how to, understand, because I think the biggest problem here is that nobody's listening to anybody. So I'm trying to, like, for me personally, and what Go Get It Life started as a hashtag, and I always say this thing, it was to motivate myself. I love responding to people on social media. I love talking to people on social media. I love researching people for my characters. I love exploring everything I'm doing, and look at my own life when I'm growing up and realize the mistakes that, I've made, or the things that I've done right, and, and just really communicate on them. So just know that I'm a big believer in that, hearing other people's stories, as much as people love to talk in this life, sometimes listening is an amazing thing, because you could really learn so much if you just listen. So with that, let's
Well, I'd love to go around. Let's let everyone introduce themselves. So,
hi, how you doing? This is Joni Carrillo with my daughter Jacqueline. Jackie.
Hey, Jackie. Hey, Joni.
Hey, I'm Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm all right, man. How are you?
Hi, I'm Tamara.
How are you?
Hey, Terry and Sarah McDermott.
What's up, Terry? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Torin. Good, brother.
Hi, I'm Torin. So must be a little delayed. I'm Torin, St. Helens, Oregon.
Cool.
From all over. I love it. So it's funny because it just happens this way. I love that we have an international community, because we've had some years where it's been like the international house of Go Get It Life, but it's, we have people from France and Germany and the UK. So it's fun this year because we have 4 of our winners are in the States and 1 is in Canada.
Yeah, so, and from all over.
But I love that we always have that international presence. And it's just so cool, everyone getting connected. And I think it's cool too, because one of our winners last year, Lindsay, is in the UK. You met her for the first time.
Yeah.
This year. That was cool.
Lindsay
in person. It was crazy.
Lindsay, I've been, Lindsay, and she's probably watching this. We first.
I'm gonna do a social post. Sorry.
Started writing. We started connecting. She was a fan of Suns, and she had like a lot of anxiety, which I think a lot of us have, and and really kind of just stuff that she was pushing through and working through, and really had a hard time kind of being out there and putting herself out there and all that. And Go Get It Life has been amazingly this incredible place for her to kind of come in and realize so many things. So I've talked to her multiple times online, and then when I was just in Wales with all the guys from the show Sons of Anarchy I did, when I was with all those guys, she came and we met. So it's so funny that everybody's like a millimeter apart, in one way or another. So it was kind of cool to have her there and talk about all the stuff that we've been through. So yeah, let's get it rolling. Joni, Jackie, tell everybody what's up. Let me hear it.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank you, Megan and Theo, for putting out the challenge and giving it a theme, because yearly I like to do my vision board and put things together, but sometimes you kind of need to focus, and like you said, you kind of got to put out the distractions and have something to aim towards. So when I did my 2019 vision board, I really used the challenge and topic to kind of put together and reflect what it was that I wanted to accomplish for 2019. The plan is definitely for me because back to six and doing the small things in order to be able to accomplish what I want during the course of the year. It's something that is important and something that one has to kind of sit back and reflect on and really look at, okay, so what are you doing and how are you getting it done? But the story, and this is the reason why I have Mommy's Little Motivator here, is really about my daughter, because it was a Friday in December, probably like a lot of the Fridays in the fourth half of the year, when for me it's a pretty busy time. I like to do a lot of volunteering. I like to give back with my time, coaching, a lot of different activities. And, that takes a lot out of you. Being a mother, have to be a mother first, have to be a wife first. And I think it was a Friday night, and I was kind of down to my last, and I was still trying to work and get some things done. And my daughter came in and she said, "Hey, Mom, when you going to come in and get some of this good couch time?" Meaning, when you're going to sit down and relax, because I'm seeing you run around all week long. And I said, "Baby, I'll get to it. And she, saw that I needed a little motivation. She saw that I needed a little push. So she went, got her phone, and I let her see the movie, The Last Dragon. I'm not quite sure if anybody remembers that movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. Good movie. Our critic here says it's a good movie from back in the 80s. Yes, Bruce Leroy. Yeah. Whenever I say, "Did you clean your room?" she says, "Show enough."
I got the show enough shirt that I wear.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, she came in, and I showed her the movie. I probably wasn't thinking about the implications of how she would ever use it or see it again. And she came in, and like I said, she saw that I was kind of down and trying to get through some work that I was doing, and she turned around to me and she said, "Mommy, you're a dragon. You got the golden glow." And she started singing the song and dancing and doing a whole lot of things to keep me entertained, but she did it to keep me in it. And music has always been something that's very, very important to us. My mother, she passed away in 2012 from breast cancer, but one of the things that she always instilled in us was the importance of music. She was a singer, and Jackie's a musician. I just like to listen to music and dance, but I still love music anyway. And again, to kind of see her inherit and do something that out of the ordinary, just in terms of, I see my mommy down and I'm going to use something she showed to me in order to motivate her, just was, a great experience. So again, when I was looking at my plan, I said to myself, how am I going to do the little things during the year, during the week, during the day, so that when my daughter sees, you're doing these things and you're not exhausted, meaning it's worth the time to go out and not only just work, but have a hobby and volunteer and do things to help other people, because, you can always do more with less and work smarter without necessarily working harder. So again, the plan. Yes, exactly. It's just, sometimes it's like, if you think through from a process standpoint, I'm a big process person, love Six Sigma. And, look at how you're doing things, then, our kids look at us, look to see, okay, if mommy and daddy are doing that, how are they taking it? How are they, reacting to it? Is this a good thing for me to do if I'm going to be exhausted and not be able to hold my head up on a Friday? So, in terms of setting an example and being able to pass along something to, our kids to say, hey, this is a good thing to do. I think at the highest level of my story and the things that I put in the plan for 2019 to live my best life ever is that it's great to help others. It's a great thing to volunteer, even if it's something small to help someone else, but you can't pour anything out for anyone else unless your jug is full too.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that was a big thing I took away from your story, was just how you had been like giving to so many other people, but you were like, what about me and my family? And we really got to watch that. So I thought that was such a good lesson, because I think that so many times we find ourselves in those situations, like we all do, right?
Yeah, and I think that we have a 3 and a 1 year old, 3.5 and a 1.5, and I think that you get caught. You know what I mean? Like you just get caught. Like the day just goes, right? Because you're like, you're cleaning up, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that. We got the dogs, we got this. We're traveling. I'm leaving every couple of days on a plane, and it's like so you can get caught, and then you get completely like overwhelmed, you and yourself. And then when you're completely overwhelmed, you're no benefit to anyone. So I'm a big believer, and a lot of people don't like to say it, but I am a big believer that you have to take care of yourself. You have to. You cannot. You will be your best version of yourself when you take care of yourself. So when your side of the street is clean, when you're like in your best position, you're going to be able to do so much more. And that's why they say, like, sleep a certain hours, eat a certain way, be a certain, like, you got to take care of yourself. And what I've seen personally in my own life, and I've been on this journey for a minute now, is the people who aren't taking care of themselves really are having a really hard time doing for anybody else. So it's like, okay, well, take care of yourself first. Be that example to your children. Be that example to Jackie. Be that example for me, Kane and Arlo. And then I'm going to also be able to do even more.
And that's so hard too, because it really helps, I think, when you've been through it, to help to encourage others. And there's so many times, like when you were just talking, babe, and I was going, oh man, like how many times do I have like full meltdowns? Because in the beginning,
all the time,
would not ask for help. I would not ask for help. I mean, how many people on here have a hard time asking for help, right? Okay. You're just like, I'm going to do it myself. I got this. And then what happens? You crash and burn. You crash and burn. There's a big fight with your partner. You're a mess. You're a sobbing mess. You're like eating a cheeseburger. Like you don't even know what's going on. Okay. There were so many times where I was just like, Theo, I have to go get a cheeseburger. He's vegan. And I was like, I'm going to sit here and eat it, and you're not going to say anything. Okay. I'm trying not to get to the cheeseburger stage anymore. So Theo has been really helpful, and it has not always been easy to say, do for yourself. Now, I also have the character that doesn't mean I'm running off to the day spa and I'm going to have people like, feeding me grapes every day. It just means like ask for help. And there's going to get two answers. You're either going to get yes or no. I can either help you right now or I can't, right? Or I have had to say, and I've gotten really good at it now, okay, my anxiety is getting really high. My depression's starting to creep in. Time out. And I have a whole list of like my escape routes, like do this, do that, so I can come back and take care of me. So I think for those who are watching it going, oh yeah, so easy for you to say, go take care of yourself first. It doesn't mean you just give up everything and you go live by yourself. It just means like every day find something. And a lot of times too, it's like the mindset. Like I remember I really had to change my mindset in every way. And one of them really specifically was like, oh, I finished this cup of coffee before it got cold. Today's a good day, and but just having that celebration, it sounds so silly. That celebration was like what I needed to take care of myself.
Yeah, and then also like, you know, I think that and I think that, you know, Joni touched on this. It's like sometimes you just need like a minute. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just need a minute. Like you just say it's not about like Meg just said, like taking the whole day or doing whatever. It's just like I think that what we don't do and what I
sit in the toilet.
Yeah, like I just go hide in the bathroom. I'm like, you know, or it's just like you just need a minute where you're like, I just need a minute. And the thing is that we don't ask for it. And because we don't ask for it, what happens is we don't ask and then we get mad. That goes for like everything in life. We don't ask for it, but then we get mad that it's not done. And you have a lot of people around you. And listen, this doesn't mean necessarily there are a lot of people like that don't have anybody around them, but there are also groups and people online and things that you can do. Like if you just ask.
Yeah, like if you are a spiritual person, if you go to a place of worship, there's somebody there to help, or a coworker or something. Like there's got to be something.
I had a guy ask me, I had someone, and he, you know, they might even be listening to this right now. Someone wrote me online and wrote me like 2 people in the same day. 2 people that I kind of know through their work asked me, like wrote me these long messages and like 2 people who don't even have my phone number. They wrote me like on DMs on Instagram, and like, you know, we're saying they're having a tough time with their family, having a tough time with this and a tough time with that. And it's funny because they both ended with, I know you're probably not going to answer this, but I just had to say something. And what did I do? I wound up talking with them for a while and answering them because I took 10 minutes to do that because I know that that might help them in one way or another. And I'm also just relaying my experiences. So what I think is so important and what we realize in that part of the segment of this is that we can't do much for anybody, or we're not going to give maximum effort unless we take care of ourselves first.
No.
That's why I jog every morning. That's why I take care of myself. That's why I read and do everything that I have to do, because if I don't get that in, I'm finished.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finished.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do this. I couldn't even sit here if I didn't go run 5 miles. I don't eat the way I eat. I don't do what I do. If I don't take care of myself like that, I can't. I'm pointless. And I think that that's something that everybody, to make their best year, should work on, is taking care of yourself, because all the other stuff will come.
Mm-hmm.
Put that stuff off for a minute, because it'll all come once you take care of yourself. Yeah. Cool.
All right. I would love to let our next guest chit chat. Chad, thank you. And for you guys who have ever watched other live hangouts we've done, you know that Chad has been the man behind the ship.
No.
What would be a saying?
It would be like the man behind the computer or something.
Well, he's like orchestrating the whole thing, and he does all this technical stuff.
Nobody's on a boat. We're not on
I
a
might
boat.
be. I'm on a boat.
All right, Melissa, go for it.
I'm Melissa.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and I completely agree. I have a chalkboard in my bedroom that I bought this years ago, and I only have one thing written on it, and it says, "Learn to love yourself, because it's the only way you will ever learn to love anybody else." And there's a lot of truth to that. My story, whenever you gave the theme for 2019, you know, what's your best plan? I had to really think about it, because the last 5 years of my life, nothing has gone according to plan. I went from being a very successful grad student to meeting the wrong people, basically, and becoming a meth addict. And then from there, it was strung out and homeless. And then I met who is now my ex. And to make a long story short, we wound up suffering 2 miscarriages. And then he wound up getting arrested. And that was in 2013. So you can look my name up in the papers, but it's not in there for the right reasons, or good reasons, let's say. But he escaped. Him and 2 other gentlemen in September of 2013 escaped, and I went with him. Couldn't have predicted that was going to happen. I didn't plan that, but I didn't really know what to do at the time. Which, here's a tip. If you ever know somebody, or if you're ever in love with someone and they go to jail and that happens, don't pick them up. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But I wound up doing 3 months in county for that. Got out, had to start over. But the good news is, like, I was still able to serve my community. And even though it's kind of like starting from the bottom up, I made sure that the foundation that I built this time was way stronger than the one that I had last time. And being in customer service, sometimes, you know, you get your jerks and you get, you know, people who are not nice, but for the most part, it's a good way to learn people's stories. It's a good way to share your experiences. And it's a good way for people to connect on, I'd say, a lot more personal levels than you would imagine. When you invest in your community and you don't look at your job as just a job, you look at your job as a way to serve. And now I work at a bar, and that's another way for me to serve, which is awesome, way awesome. I love the business. But also too, last year I suffered a horrible burn on my arm, and I had to learn how to ask for help. I didn't have a choice. Even like little things like opening the doors or, hey, can you help me carry this? Because I'd never suffered a burn that bad. But one thing I was proud of last year is that my sister, she's my twin sister, she actually got to achieve her dream of being a social worker. And anytime I think that my life is hard or rough, I got to just spend 10 minutes talking to my sister. And I'm just like, you know what? I got it good, because she meets people at their lowest and she helps them. She's amazing to me.
That's incredible.
Thank you so much, by the way, for just telling that story for everybody to hear. It's funny, right? Everybody always tells me, I got a couple of my guys that always tell me, you know, man makes plans, right? And God laughs, or man makes plan, you know. It's kind of that thing of like, we realize when things happen, we realize how little control we have, and it's like things just start to
spiral so quickly.
And your story is so incredibly unique, and I think anybody that can, yet at the same time, anybody who has suffered with anything to do with any addiction, or or anything to do with anything in that ballpark, I know a little bit about that. I think there's probably a few people that maybe know about that. It's wild, right? Because things happen so fast, and it's like, whoa, what just happened, right? Years just go by, things happen.
It is. You don't realize how fast it spiral until it spirals, and you're just, 1 minute things seem normal, and then it's like you wake up and nothing is as it should be.
Right.
Or it's certainly not what you would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, and I've lost a lot of people really close to me to other drugs and stuff like that, and again, just the ramifications that have come with that, from the families and our family and stuff like that. So it's funny because here you are, right, and you're telling this story that some people hear and just obviously, I'll be completely honest, most people can't even fathom. They're like, I don't even understand. You were a grad student, and this happened and that happened. And then to hear you say,
meet the wrong people.
Just things happen, right? That's life. That's what's amazing about free will in life. Like, things happen. And to sit here and hear you say like how much you love working in the bar, right? And you have a plan now, and you're surrounding yourself with better people, and you're doing things different. See, what's so incredible that you said is not the story. It's the fact that you're here and you're pushing forward. That's what this whole thing is. You've decided to say that's what it was. See, most people don't come out of that one way or another. It either becomes their hiccup for the rest of their life, where they just always go to it and they always use it as an excuse and they don't do anything, or they say, hey, that happened and that was terrible and that defines me and that's a piece of me, but now let's go, like, let's use it. And I think that that's what's so incredible about you, and that what you're doing now. And that's the whole definition of this whole thing. That's what Go Get It Life is. That's just kind of what it is. So thank you so much for that. And that little simple chalkboard that you have is, loving yourself is the most important thing. And what you're doing now is you're truly loving yourself. And that's why you're able to do what you do.
So I think you realize too, when you are experiencing insecurity in yourself, is that whether you realize it or not, so many times you are projecting that insecurity onto your family members, your friends, your coworkers. You're going to get jealous and catty and feel less than more often at work, right? It's going to happen in your family. It's just, oh, my sibling is doing this or that, and I'm, less than. But I think that, that is such a great lesson, that
Yeah,
Melissa
you're just so strong. Your strength alone of what you've been able to do, and the fact that you're even on here talking about it, and the fact of what you're doing, your strength is what everybody needs in this world. Not just the example. It's your strength. That's what people need.
Thank you.
It's so easy to come down and out like that. Just
thank you, Melissa, for that. I love that, and I love to see what you're doing, and I love to see where you're going, and
it's so great too, because like you're hearing snippets of everyone's story today, but then when you get to go read everyone's plan on Monday and like read through what everyone is planning to do this year in detail, it's really cool understanding where they're coming from when they wrote it.
Melissa, have you ever worked with other people who have been through stuff like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially here at the bar, you do. But even at the grocery store, sometimes you'll come across it. I'm going to share a really fast story because it's really cool. So there was a guy, I know that he had just gotten out of jail, and back in the day, he and I did meth together. We kind of went down that rabbit hole. And when I saw him come into the grocery store, I wasn't sure what to say. So I was just like, okay, God, I'm just going to leave this to you. If we're meant to say hello or whatever, that's fine. But if not, I'm just going to let it go. And he kept acting like he didn't see me, and he got his groceries and he checked out, and then he came around and he's like, I can't do this. And he just came and he gave me the biggest hug, and I hugged him so tight. It was like that soul hug. And when I pulled back, he had tears in his eyes. Now, I don't know if he's going to be clean or not, but I'd like to think that if I could just serve like as an example and just show people like him, you know what? This isn't where your story has to end. This is a chapter, and chapters end. But life is like a book, and you can write the next chapter however you want. This doesn't have to define you. You don't have to continue it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why, again, when I first started this thing this morning, what did we just say? Or today? I don't even know what day it is. When we first started this thing, it was like, hey, we teach by examples. It's like what I do. I mentor a lot of people in like acting. And I started in this business as an extra, right? And it's like I tell people, like I started as an extra. Then I had like one line and Malcolm in the middle. And then I had one word. And then like I literally started and came up. And it's like, hey, for my example, I started late. I had a very different life before I gotten into this. Been through the ringer, the whole bit. It was like, okay, well, let me use this to try to help other people. See, sometimes it's just also by example and being honest and showing your life and what you're doing there, just by you existing, just by you going through your day to day, just by you trying to strive to be better every day. That in itself is showing people. That in itself is just, we're all going to have bad days. We all do. We all going to have whatever. But the truth is you in itself, who you are is an example every single day, not just to your kids and the people closest to you, but like literally to the people who see you outside, because we all know this. We get around people and we can tell their energies like right away. It's like, oh, that's, I'm not going near that person. Like there's something going on. Or we get near other people, and that's not like voodoo crazy stuff. That's true. Like I get around people and I'm just like, man, I just want to be around this person. They radiate something. They're good hearted. They're honest. They're open. They've been through it. They're not faking the funk. They're not whatever. And I think that, that comes from people just being open. So again, I thank you, Melissa. Tamara, what do you got, Tamara?
So over the past year or so, I was in a relationship, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't healthy. And when I was in it, I couldn't see that. I couldn't see what the relationship was and what it was doing to me. So I've had problems with depression and anxiety and self-doubt for a number of years. And when I got into the relationship, I thought it was helping. Like I was feeling good, and something changed along the way, and it ended up shifting for the worse. And I started losing who I was, who I worked so hard to be. Um, like I lost this vital part of myself. And it took a while to get there, to realize that, and then a bit longer even to get out because I didn't want to acknowledge what I was seeing. Um, but eventually I did get out of the relationship like this past year, and I've spent the second half of the year really working to rebuild my mental foundation. Um, I really like helping people and doing what I can for them, but I can't do that if I'm not on solid ground. So I've already started doing what my plan for 2019 is, and it's to overhaul my lifestyle. I really want to put a focus on my mental health, and I want to do it in a way that's going to stick, um, because it's vital for me to become strong again, to become who I am, not who I became. Um, so I didn't want it to be anything like a fad. So what I submitted and what people read when if they read the story is I laid out a number of small goals and small things I can change in my life to with the end goal of improving my mental health. So getting out more, drinking more water, getting active, but all with the goal of it rebuilding a foundation for me so that I can go out and help others like I want to without damaging myself along the way. Um, but yeah, so it was a hard year, but it had a lot of good points in it and a lot of positives. And I've made a really strong point in the past year to just look for the positive, to not get into that spiral and not to dwell on the bad parts because you don't go anywhere. Um, and I really just I want to keep moving forward and being positive and working towards that on a constant daily basis and talking about it with people is I think the way that I'm going to be able to do that. Um, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a hard year, but things are looking up.
And how is it going for you so far this year with those little steps that you wanted to implement to make yourself stronger?
I think it's going really well. I'm socializing at work more. I'm going out almost daily with coworkers for even just a walk to get out of the office, get some fresh air. Um, I'm drinking more water. I'm staying positive. I'm looking for the upside in everything because it's so easy to slip and to start finding the hard stuff and the bad stuff and getting stuck in it. So it's going well. I'm feeling really good about it. I haven't been able to touch on everything that I wanted to do yet, but it's a lifestyle. It's a full year. Nothing says I have to do it all right in January. So
even this year, you don't. I mean, it's just the fact of building. I mean, we're never going to stop growing as people, right? So it's like I have to remind myself that not everything happens right away because I put so much pressure on myself, like so much pressure, like to a point of
patience.
Yeah, I have no patience, and I have an unnecessary need to get things done immediately, right? So because of that, because I just don't understand, right? And that goes as much for my mental well-being as my work and my physical and everything. I believe we have a finite time here, and I think my biggest fear is that things are going to end before I kind of do all the stuff I want to do. Do you know what I mean? And when you talk about with your relationship, I'm raised from a single mom, and who remarried and later on, and I think that what happens is I've seen it so much where people get lost in relationships. You lose yourself, right? And you become maybe something that you're not. And again, time slips, almost like Melissa was saying, time slips, it goes fast, right? And then you kind of almost have to work yourself out to kind of find your identity and who you are and all that. The great thing is every single thing you just said is like you're laying the bricks, right? I think Will Smith tells that story that his father, told him to go build a wall, him and his brother, and it's an amazing story. And you got to start with one brick, right? You're not just going to go build the wall. Like, it just doesn't work like that. It's one brick at a time. But before you know it, you got this incredible, strength and foundation that you put together. So I've had to tell myself, which I know you're in the process of doing, and your story is just a reminder to me that it's like, hey, this is happening and that's happening and that's amazing. And maybe that's not so amazing, but that's happening and then it's just like little and little. And next thing you know, because I do believe, and I know people don't like when I say it, I don't think there's such thing as a perfect life. I think that it's almost impossible because of the world we live in. You can't expect that. I know people who have more money than they could ever dream of, and they're miserable. I know people who are more famous than they could ever dream of, and they're miserable. And I know people who have next to nothing, and they're some of the happiest people I've ever been around in my life. It's just your perspective of it all. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the main thing. How do you look at it, right? And I think that we're all learning that, we have, on our side, we have two beautiful kids. We live here in a really cool, progressive, forward-thinking town in Austin, where we get to travel, we get to do whatever. And,
I think for me too.
We won, we won in that way. But again, we're still not.
But life throws us grenades on the daily. And it's just, I think, because we have our hands in a lot of things. So there's a lot more opportunity. And I know for me is what I tell myself and what I tell like my brother and sister, anyone else who's going through this, I say, when it's good, really try to hold on to that and really just savor the good parts, because they're going to get you through the suck. Because inevitably there's going to be the highs and the lows, and you just got to get through the suck, and everything's temporary. So that means the good and the bad are temporary. And when I've been in really, really challenging situations, and I was going to make a joke, but it's true. Even in childbirth, like, pain is awful, physically, emotionally, whatever it is. But I know that it's temporary, God willing. It's temporary. So that's always helped get me through it. Like, if I had like a really horrible bout of depression or this and that, as things were blowing up and I was having conflict with my family and no one was talking the same or speaking the same language, and I just would be like, it's temporary. We're going to get through this. I am going to come out the other side one day.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I have written down that I always just read is like, learn to deal with the valleys. The hills will take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about the good times. Those are easy. You know what I mean? But learn to deal with that hard stuff. Learn to deal with when you go down. Learn to deal with what you do with that. The good stuff, the going out to lunch with your coworkers, to do all that, that's great.
Yeah.
Enjoying that. But but prepare yourself. Put your battle armor on for the other stuff, because that's kind of where you need to be prepared. So the hills will always handle themselves. The valleys are the things we must prepare ourselves for. That's what I believe. Well,
and with that, I would like to segue. Is Terry our next? It goes in order.
Yeah.
Okay. So Terry and Sarah McDermott. Full disclosure, Terry is my cousin, and that did not give him any favoritism on this. Because as you will read for yourselves on Monday, Terry had just an incredibly well thought out and well planned best year yet proposal. And he just has such a phenomenal story to share. If you dig through our website, he was one of our first contributors back in 2014, 2015, whenever his email did come through, and shared a story. And I think what was so amazing to me about Terry's story is that so Terry and I come from a big Irish Catholic family. We have 29 first cousins, right? And our dads are brothers, and there's 10 of them, and then most everyone had kids, and it's just woo, McDermott's everywhere. And I didn't get a chance to really ever spend a lot of time with Terry because I had so many cousins. And I remember this one family reunion, and Terry was there, and he was on leave from the army. And I thought he was like the coolest guy ever. And he could only be there for, I think, for a night. or something. If I even remember, I have like the most horrific memory. Um, and when he turned in his story about being bullied in school, I was like, what? My cousin Terry, he's like the baddest ass, if that's even ass, I don't even know how to say it, but you know what I'm trying, the most badass person like I think I know. Like he was like so cool to me. So it has been such a joy and a highlight. And then now, recently he submitted a follow-up story entitled Never Give Up, and then this plan for this year. And I just, hi Terry, hi Sarah. If you could just share a little bit about your background, because I am alluding to it, but I would love for you to tell everyone a bit about your story.
Well, thank you. It's interesting seeing myself here talking, feel like I'm talking to myself. This is my wife, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
But a little bit about my past. I was one of those kids who was lost and really had no direction. I didn't learn like others. My mother was a teacher, so it was really hard for her and my father to understand why I didn't learn like others. And then to add on to everything else, I was that small, scrawny, pimple-faced kid who um, never knew what I was doing. Was always lost. But finally, it was the army that helped move me around and kind of. Sorry, my daughter's over here. Uh, to help give me a little bit of direction and gave me the confidence um, with who I am today. I used to, when I went in the Army, um, some of the people there forced me, I want to say that, forced me to build confidence in myself and take responsibility for me, for my actions. And by doing that, I was able to um, move towards, um, I'm at a loss of words here. Um, but anyway, it gave me who I am today, gave me my sense of direction, and was in the 82nd Airborne Division. Um, Ended up, injuring my back, getting hurt. Just had my fourth back surgery, be 2 weeks ago on Thursday, so recovering from that. But here I am today. I quit school right before the Army, and today I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and education to me is a pretty big component of how I think people should move forward with things. But when it came to a plan of what to do for 2019, the best year yet, it actually forced Sarah and I to sit down as a family and talk about what we wanted to do to change ourselves for the better. Um, and one of the things, and I would assume that you would agree with me, is we have no time to do anything, none. Um, we're pretty focused on getting our kids where they need to be. They're both in dance, they're both in Girl Scouts. We're the leaders of that. Um, Archery, swimming. They both go to two different schools, having to pick them up. So box meals, throwing them in the oven, the most unhealthy meals that you can possibly find. They're also the fastest, which is why we do that. And for my first time in my 41 years of existence, I've noticed that I need to, well, you've told me this too, that I need to probably eat a little bit healthier. And one of the hardest things that I found that I did was I actually quit smoking after close to 30 years of doing that. And it wasn't really for myself. I actually enjoyed doing it. My daughter, my oldest daughter, caught me for the second time or third time, who knows, in the garage, and I just didn't want to model that behavior. That and my wife told me I smelled all the time when I came in from the garage. So that's been nice. Um, but she's here with me because everything we do with our family, we're a pretty good team on making sure everybody gets done what needs to be done. However, that's come at a cost, because a lot of it is spent where we're not actually spending time together. We're there, but when we first met, that's all we did is we sat down, we talked together. So this plan moving forward, spend more time with each other, not just our family. Eat healthier, because I have no idea. You know, I love junk food. Um, I love to drink coffee. I probably drink a pot of coffee every day. I used to drink about a 2 liters of Mountain Dew every day, so I changed that. Carve out time in the day to exercise, because if we don't eat healthy, what's it matter if we exercise or not? And I'm not able to exercise like I used to. My back got so bad over the last year where I just wasn't able to exercise anymore. And uh, so that definitely we need to do. If you can jump in if you want to.
Well, I want to jump in because I don't know. I don't think Terry is giving himself enough credit for what he does as a teacher. And I don't think he was very clear on he dropped out of high school. Like this man did not go to high school. He went his freshman year. So for when he says, I have a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree, that's huge. That's huge for him. Um, he is a high school teacher now. He works with kids who were like Terry. Um, and when I walk in the grocery store and I see one of his students, I always know what kind of day they have because they're, hi, Mrs. McDermott, or they put their head down. um, but he does not have his traditional classroom. He really is a teacher who thinks outside the box. He gives back to the community and the schools like no other. He really is an asset to the Olentangy School District, and I just think he's downplaying that for himself. So I just wanted to give that little history of him, but just to work together on it.
Well, thank you.
This next year, and just be more of a better team and communicating and doing stuff together. So that's where we're at for this next year.
Yeah, I think that, and thank you so much for telling that, because I think that rings true to a lot of people on this, not just people who have kids. I think that what I've seen, because I observe everything, right? I learn more about myself by learning about others, is the balance that we're all struggling with at all times, right? Because something's going to have to be sacrificed, right? At one point or another, if you want to go to the gym all the time and you want to eat perfect, well, then your family might sacrifice, right? Mm-hmm. Or your partner. If you are with your partner all the time and you're with them and it's all about you and your partner, your friendships might sacrifice, right? And so you're not going to have time for your friends. If you want to be the best parent, so you just want to do whatever you can for your kids, and your kids don't understand that you're just scared at all times because you just want to do everything to make their life better. And from what I've seen, and again, our kids they have no idea. They just think we're either annoying them or telling them what to do, but really we just want them to be the best versions of themselves and the best humans and not make mistakes maybe our parents made or things like that. Like, we're just trying to be better. And I think that that's a balance at all times. So what I'm trying to do when people ask me like, how you doing? I say, I'm just trying to balance it all, right? I'm trying to like be in shape, be healthy for my family, for myself, for my kids, for my mental well-being. I'm trying to be the best husband. I'm trying to be the best father. I'm trying to be the best at what I do in my job. I'm trying, like everything you're trying to do. But again, remember, it's virtually impossible, right? Something's going to sacrifice. So that's why I think that for what I've had to do is I've had to like almost take inventory of my life and go like, well, what's the most important? What's number one? What's the most important? And that for me is obviously being a father and being a husband. Like that's the most important, right? What's number two? Well, I got to take care of myself. Like I have to physically take care of myself, because there's no point of all this if I'm not here, or if I'm sick, or if I'm hurt, or if I'm down, or if I'm, so that's got to be number two, right? Number three, is I got to be to my community and to my people and to I have a responsibility to the world. I have to. I have to be the best version of myself, and I have to give back as much as I can. And number four, because it makes the whole world spin in my life, is I got to do the best of my job. because it puts food on the table, and it also, you know, can be push the other 3 on top of it forward. So it's like, but I have to look at that. And that's really hard, because there are times when I'm with the kids and I really want to read this script that just got sent to me. And I like really want to read it. And I'm like, man, but I am not even paying attention to my kids. So, and again, there are times when I get up in the morning. So now instead of maybe getting up at 7, I got to get up at 5:30 if I want to run. And I got to sacrifice. So maybe I'm not going to binge watch some TV show. I haven't seen one movie that's nominated for an Oscar. And I'm in the business. I haven't seen anything because I've had to take other things out of my life to move things around. And I think that, you know, Terry, what you're doing is, and what you've accomplished, first of all, just as a human in general, dropping, you know, high school dropout to do what you're doing to educate in your way. Education is the key in everything. And it's not just education in books.
Well, think about how much time a teacher spends with a child in a day compared to the parent. You know, for those of us who are parents, or even, I mean, you're all daughters and sons here. You think back to your parents, you maybe have rush out the door in the morning and rush in and out at night. But during the day, you have your educator who's with your child, your children. So, and I will say too is when you're sitting there and you're looking at your plan for yourself and for your family, and it's all about chipping away. You know, like Theo and I used to both be smokers. And, you know,
10 years ago.
Yeah, we each have, and mine was I had to get pregnant to quit smoking. It was very hard for me to quit smoking. And when I got pregnant with Kane, I was like, and I'm done. And I haven't gone back because, as we always say, like if I play the tape, if I go have one cigarette, that'll lead to 5, which will lead to a pack. Like I can't go back there.
And it's just not worth it. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing.
And
yeah,
so, but I've always looked at different things. Like I really help. Like my mom will come to us, right? Every time my mom visits, she'll be like, "Okay, so what can I do?" Because my mom's like me. She's not going to cut out like carbs and dairy and all that. Like we just love bread and cheese and wine, and it's going to happen. But we do little things, like incremental things. Like I'm not a diet person. I have to make just incremental changes. Otherwise, I'll crash and burn, and I won't be successful. So, for example, instead of using sugar or an artificial sweetener, we use stevia. You know, we only have unsweetened iced tea and water, and then we add like a little stevia to the iced tea as we need it. Like there's no sodas. If I ever get an itch for a soda, I buy the Zevia brand, which starts with a Z because it's made with
and the
stevia.
thing
But
is,
just little things.
And as someone who's nuts about food, and not to get into that topic, it's like I know that that's especially what we were all talking about, and I saw Joni even coming in agreement with that with kids. It's like you want to feed kids quick, you want to get them out the door, you got to do what you got to do, right? And it's like, whew, that's tough, right? Because it's like, man, you know, I don't want to start laying down this foundation because I come from an era where nobody thought about food. You just ate what you ate. I ate Pop-Tarts and Fruity Pebbles and Lucky Charms, and I drank Quick, and I drank Tang, and like it just.
Yeah, I grew up on Stouffer's frozen meals.
I was probably taking in 500-600 grams of sugar a day, and nobody was saying anything. And then you wonder why every single person in my family has diabetes. You know, it's like, of course they were. Everybody was eating sugar. Like nobody was telling anything. But now what I love about this new generation and what's coming on is we're so educated now about all this, right? So it is those little changes. And yes, Terry, like you, it's been 10 years ago that I quit smoking. I would love to have a cigarette. Every 5 minutes I would think about it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. But the truth is I think about my sons. I think about me running 30, 40 miles a week and like what that would do to that, you know, how I would feel. I think about like, you know, how you smell and how you think. And it's and you go, you weigh that, you checklist it, positives, negatives, right? And that's like me with drinking. Everybody's like, you don't drink. I don't drink. You know, it's not that I have anything against people that drink. I think it's great. Go do it. Get lit. I think it's amazing.
You just had your anniversary.
Yeah. I just, again, 10 years. I just don't have 9 years. 9 years. I just don't have the time. My thing is like, if I'm going to go out and drink and if I'm hungover at all, I might miss something. I might be a little off, and maybe I'm not giving the most to my children. Maybe I'm not doing the most of something I'm missing. So it's not worth it. And I think that when you start weighing of what's worth it in your life, of like where it is, because what we've all realized here in this conversation so far, before we get to touring is that time seems to be the most important thing, right? It's managing all our time. How do we manage our time for the next year coming up?
Yeah.
And how do we balance all these things we want to do? Our relationships, like Tamara said, you know, like Melissa said about, you know, educating and giving back and getting back to the center of herself. As Joni was saying, to give Jackie the best life and to also, you know, figure out time for herself, to give herself the most energy to go. All the word that's always doing all this into what Terry said is time. None of us have time.
But you can find really creative ways to sit down and do it. And I do too, because you travel so much, is I go into the freezer section when I do have the time and I like study what's there, because I do a lot of like, you know, foods in the ovens and stuff like that for the boys. And I try to find like the mac and cheese made with whole grains, or like, you know, anyways, but there's, you know, and I make them like spaghetti a lot, but I buy the veggie noodles that are made out of like either lentils or chickpeas, or they now have, you know, noodles made out of broccoli and zucchini. So I try to do that with the sauce to get extra nutrients.
And the problem, you know, and just to go on that, I think that when a lot of people listen to this stuff, the problem where the game is sort of rigged in a way, you know, where this becomes more of a systemic thing, but you have to find the workaround, is that sometimes the stuff that's healthier is more expensive. That's just the way they get you, right? Like, it's like, oh man, I wish I could eat organic, but look how expensive that is. If I could just get that one, that's half the price. They try to, that's the gaming of the system, right? That's the whole systemic nature of it. And I think that's why McDonald's dollar menu always wins, you know, over people, because it's fast and it's easy and you can go right through, you know. But I think that, you know, what I know is that a head of lettuce is pretty cheap. And then I know that, you know, vegetables are cheap and you can find ways around it. You just have to be sacrificing what that is. And like I say, when it comes down to diet, and the last thing I'll say, and it's something I live by, I've been living by it my whole life, is that I eat to live. I don't live to eat. I'm only eating to live, you know, to sustain my life. I have no interest in, and it sounds crazy, people get so mad at me when I say it, I don't care about the taste of food. People are like, I don't, like, it doesn't matter to me. It's just getting me past the next step, which is I'm full. Okay, cool. You know,
which
and
makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to her because she loves food.
Food.
I don't care about it. Yeah. And I think that's a huge
But it's good because we help balance each other.
Yeah.
So Torrin, I would love to chit chat with you. And I was really drawn, especially Torrin's story. I know you're engaged.
Congrats.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I was going to know, like, you're engaged still, right? I'm just making sure everything's okay.
Nothing changed since the letter.
I think so.
But yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. First of all, I mean, this is so out of my element. I don't really group. I like individual talking, but everyone's story was just great. You know, Joni, you raised an awesome daughter. It's evident. You know, and one thing about, and just everybody, I mean, Terry, you're just the man. I mean, come on. And Tamara, you know, I think our stories are fairly similar. And one thing that I have in my best life, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and with Melissa's story, you know, for someone who's in, you know, doing great, and then you get really, really, really low, and then, you know, you're just trying to work your way up. And just about podcasts is, you know, Jay and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith, you know, Jay, he was addicted to heroin, and they started doing the podcasts. Kevin Smith started doing the podcast basically as a intervention for Jason, who's Jay, to, you know, not do them anymore. And I think that's what Megan and Theo, I think that's what you guys are doing with everybody. I mean, you're just trying to make everybody else make themselves better. And I think that itself, I mean, it's just awesome. What you guys are doing is fantastic. So basically, in what I have in my story is, you know, procrastination is one of them. You know, we've been talking about it on here as far as, you know, time management, and, you know, there's so many distractions. You know, we're always on our phones and social media, and it's just like you can be spending that time doing something else to better yourself. And that's one thing I've been working on. And I don't know. Yeah.
But I thought you had some sweet things too, like with your fiance that you had said, oh, you know, about how what you want to do for your relationship and just connecting with each other, and which I think is so cool that you're thinking about that before you head into marriage. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we you know, we set goals for each other. You know, I've struggled with, you know, hating myself. I mean, nobody knows that. I mean, now everybody, you guys all know that my fiance is the only one that really knew that. And, you know, to be able to say that and hear everyone else's stories of, you know, it's just, that's what makes it nice is, you know, it's easier to say stuff like that. And, you know, she helps me out and incredibly to try loving myself. And I mean, that just pushes me to love her even more. And, you know, and it's just, we just work on each other right now. You know, we want to read every single night. We've been reading every night. We go date nights now, and it's just making us stronger. And yeah, I mean that's about it as far as that.
Hey, Torin, if you don't mind me asking, and believe me, I only want you to, you know, say what you say, but I think that we all, you know, can, obviously everybody can get into this and do what it is. Why would you ever have, you know, because, and believe me, this is coming from someone who's 100,000,000% been there, is, you know, why hate yourself? Was there a disappointment that you felt? Is there, maybe you feel like you should be in a different position? Is it just sort of, you know, maybe you feel like a slight depression about certain things? Like why?
I would say just a slight depression about things. You know, I get in my own head. I think people would hate me for something. It's just, it's so silly. I mean, it's just so silly. And I try working really hard to not do that, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, I really don't. But, you know, she really helps me. She pushes me. She encourages me. She tells me, you know, just that I'm loved. And that's, I mean, that's, it helps. It does.
It's amazing how many of us, because I kind of feel like we've all been there. Haven't we? Where you're just like, why am I beating myself up? And like what Tamara was talking about with, you know, that insecurity and like, why am I doing that to myself? And, you know, Melissa's quote, you know, about loving yourself first. It's like, oh, I know, I really hate that we do that. And that is truly one of the underlying reasons, one of the many reasons that we started Go Get It Life. Because it was like, oh my gosh, we are beating ourselves up. And that is causing a ripple effect, right? With our coworkers. I see this a lot with coworkers where like you feel like you have to one up the other person, or you just really put a lot of your self-esteem and your performance at work and how you compare to others. And I'm like, oh, you know, and then your family, and I'm talking about like your nuclear family, your married family, like in your, you know, it's just, I don't know why we hurt ourselves so much.
Yeah, I think that we can be. Listen, I've been around people who are super strong. You know, we all look at the Oprahs of the world, and you know, people, and we listen to them, and we're like, man, look how strong. Look at that, right? But then when you really realize, you know, if anybody knows Oprah's story, I mean, she went through pure and absolute hell in her life. Like literally, nobody in the world has gone through what she's gone through to get to where she's been. And
she had a huge swing. Yeah,
a huge swing.
Go through that.
Yeah.
But it's like she went from here to there, and that's a huge swing.
But the point is if you listen to her, and I'm just using her as an example, is she's someone that always says what she deals with and what she battles with. I think that we can all put up that really strong. We have to be confident in ourselves. We have to lead with confidence. We have to lead with that we are. And again, this sounds weird to people, but you have to think you're the best. You have to think you're great. You have to love yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to tell yourself every day your affirmation of like how great you are. And even if you're not feeling it in the moment, you almost have to fake the funk, because your words will bring that to fruition, I believe. You know, because I know we've all felt exactly that. And you having someone with you that is telling you that you are loved and you are needed and you are so positive in this life, it's like that's so incredible. And at the same time, they're also saying those words before themselves, because some people, you know, listen, we need people around us in our lives who are stronger and that get us through. Everybody makes up who we are. My children are a piece of me that keep my heart strong, right? You know, my beautiful, amazing wife is someone that keeps me on the track, right? Keeps me going forward, keeps me, you know, from flying off. You know, my dogs are my compassion, right? My family is my history. You know, we all we have all these things. And then people I don't even know are my aspirations. You know, I see things that people are doing. I go, oh man, I want to do that. You know, so I almost feel like I know them because I want to do that. So it's like all this, what does it all say? It just says that all together we're a community. And this is, again, why we say, why Go Get It Life started, why it is to bring people together. That I don't care if there's one story a month that affects people. I don't care if there's 30. I don't care if there's 100 a day. And this is why I probably answer everybody, you know, as many people as I can online, is I believe, and I will believe this till the day this, you know, the lights go out for me, is that I believe we can all help each other. Even the people I disagree with, by the way. And by the way, I disagree with many, many people. You know, even the people who I'm like, that is absolutely insane what you're thinking. And I don't feel that way at all. I still want to listen to them because obviously they feel it for a reason. So I want to hear it. You know, so this community and what you guys have done here and what you're saying and what you're planning for your next year, I'm excited for you. You know, this has helped me incredibly.
I'm going to set a reminder in my phone right now so that in 6 months, I can follow up with everyone and I want to see how you are doing on your plan, because it's really easy to put in this great, big, well thought out plan in December, but I'm going to check in with you.
It's February.
I know.
Oh.
July.
Oh, I thought you meant this was December. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, because because in December they wrote in their entrance.
Darn. Who knows?
Check in with gratitude winners.
Okay, you can do that after.
I'm putting it in, but if I don't put in the reminder now.
So thank you guys so much, and thank you for sharing with everybody else. And we'll put your stories out, and you know, and just being a part of this. And you know, listen, at the end of the day, all we got, no matter what, you know, what everybody, people who have money, people who don't, people who have fame, people who don't. At the end of the day, it's about being your authentic self, being the real person, because we're all just trying to get through, and we're all just trying to succeed and persevere and push through and, you know, be in the best place we can be. So like I always say, I'm here to help anybody that needs it. You know, I rely on every one of you for help. Your stories help me. Your lives help me. Your contributions help me. And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being on here. I know that it's definitely out of your comfort zones to get on and to be on this video, but I really appreciate your time on a Saturday. And I am so charged up by the fact that each of you has sat down with a plan. It's a ripple effect of change that you have started in each of your stories. So thank you all so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.